episode, we had begun to unravel the incredible story of Lipa, how in 1948, Teresita Castillo, a young girl who had run away from home to become a Carmelite nun, received visits first from an entity she believed was the devil, and then from a lady who later identified herself as Mary, mediatrix of all grace. The mediatrix spoke of prayer, penance, humility, the rosary, and concern for fallen souls, especially those of priests and nuns. During this period, the fragrance of flowers would fill the air, and rose petals would materialize out of nowhere and fall on the grounds, rooms, and even blanket the stairway of the convent. Privy to all these events was Mother Mary Cecilia of Jesus, who happened to be the mistress of novices and prioress of Carmel at the same time. Another protagonist was the Carmelite chaplain and auxiliary bishop of the Diocese of Lipa, Monsignor Alfredo Obiar. He in turn would report to the bishop of the diocese, Monsignor Alfredo Versosa, who, angered by the events and the public attention that Carmel had begun to attract, went to Lipa to put an end to everything, but was himself greeted by a shower of petals and, as a result, had a change of heart. Carmel rapidly became a national passion, with thousands streaming from all parts of the country to the convent grounds. And a replica of the statue of Mary Mediatrix was borne in procession in New York and Madrid, amidst crowds of enthusiastic devotees. In those heady years, crowds repeatedly witnessed petals falling from the sky, and there were reports of a spinning sun, a moving statue, and a host of marvelous cures and conversions. Masses, novenas, and rosaries were said at the shrine, and a church called the Chapel of Mary Mediatrix of All Grace was erected on the convent grounds, funded entirely by public donations. Like most places where reports of the supernatural abound, Lipa was not spared from commercialism and the rush of opportunists anxious to cash in on the events. Restaurants and stalls selling all manner of religious items sprung up around the city. At the height of the showers, fake petal rackets mushroomed, and petals were supposedly on sale at the then staggering cost of 30 pesos apiece. The Carmelite nuns also had to deal with unauthorized solicitation purportedly on their behalf. Whether because of the rampant commercialism or some other aspect of the events, certain sectors of the Catholic Church hierarchy were not pleased. In this second half of the Keithley report on Lipa, we focus on the investigation that followed the reported apparitions, the results of which were to bring a rapid and abrupt end to what had been a most extraordinary phenomenon. Barely a year after the onset of the petal showers, Carmel Lipa suffered the first in a series of setbacks. On January 23, 1950, though he had not reached the mandatory age of retirement from office, Bishop Alfredo Versosa was suddenly relieved of the administration of the Diocese of Lipa. After 33 years of dedication, catechetical work, and active service, he remained Bishop of Lipa, in name only. Virtually all powers of one of the largest and richest dioceses of the Philippines was transferred into the hands of an apostolic administrator.
I was present when he was reading the letter that came from the Holy See, and the immediate reaction of the old bishop was, we were all standing around him. He was sitting on the sofa, and then he said, "This letter really came from the Holy Father." He was saying it in Spanish. Of course, they told Monsignor Santos and Monsignor Bagnos, he said, "Well, of course, you know, we came here to bring you precisely to intimate it to you, to let you know, no?" And that's what his answer is. If it came from the Holy Father and it is written from the Holy Father, I have nothing to do but to bow my head and obey the Holy Father. But if this is not from the Holy Father, he's alluding maybe something might come from somebody, he said, we will see it.
Talk was that he had been replaced because he had allowed public enthusiasm to grow around the phenomenon of Lipa.
Sometimes other bishops, friends, say, why do you not be strong in prohibiting this? No? You know, what the late bishop said, well, what power do I have? If this is really from heaven, I cannot do anything. If the people are receiving special graces or whatever this they are saying that they are receiving this, I cannot prevent them. That's why I neither will say no more, no, as a drastic measure like that. Because this is what he said. If this is of God's, no human power can stop it.
But according to Father Juan Coronel, then Chancellor of the Diocese of Lipa, Versosa was replaced because he had mismanaged the economic affairs of the diocese, and that his removal had nothing to do with the events at Lipa Carmel.
No relation at all.
They say that during all those years of 40 years administering the Diocese of Lipa, seems that the diocese became bankrupt, no? But I know also personally that he became bankrupt, and even his family, who is a very well-to-do family in Bigan, became bankrupt because he was so good.
Extant documents of the Chancery of the Diocese at Lipa seem to buttress Pedernal's assessment of Versosa's irreproachable character. Though Versosa may have been thought a poor administrator, he excelled in the primary duty of his office, which was to bring more souls to the faith. For he focused on establishing catechetical centers and sending catechists throughout the far-flung corners of his diocese. And records nevertheless show that prior to his relief, he was engaged in the reconstruction of the churches that had been leveled by the war, and that the first installment of the war damage claim was used to settle these debts and to finance the needs of various religious orders.
I have been telling you there was a vested interest because they know sooner or later Bishop Versosa was going to retire. And there were people in Manila, of course, priests or Monsignor were interested. Church of God, run by men.
It may never be known for certain what cost the bishop his seat, whether it was age, economic mismanagement, vested interests, or the fact that he had permitted public enthusiasm around Lipa to burgeon into a virtual national passion. He has since passed away, and surviving accounts and testimonies somehow seem to be in conflict. Bishop Versosa was replaced by Monsignor Rufino Santos, and it was under his authority that an official church commission was formed to investigate the apparitions at Lipa. As far as we know, all materials and documents in the Philippines have been burned or destroyed, and none can be found within the files of the Arcobispados of Lipa, Manila, and the Nunciature. We know that a Carmelite father was sent by their generalate in Rome to conduct an investigation among the Carmelite nuns. And according to our sources at the Vatican, this was due to a request sent by Monsignor Vagnozzi, then still just a papal delegate to the Philippines. As far as can be determined, based upon the recollections of Teresing, other testimonies, and of newspaper clippings of the time, the local commission was made up of psychologist Father Angelo Blas, rector of the University of Santo Tomas, psychiatrist Dr. Leopoldo Pardo, Father Ortega, Monsignor Artemio Casas, and Monsignor Santos. When the investigation began, the distribution of petals was stopped and the release of official statements from Carmel on the apparitions put to a halt. The conduct of the investigation and its results, however, caused the congregation and the visionary much pain. Mother Cecilia, the visionary's primary confidant, and reportedly too a recipient of interior locutions, soon shared the fate of the Bishop of Lipa. On February 27, 1950, she was suddenly unexplainably replaced as prioress and mistress of Carmel.
The whole community summoned to go to the choir, and so all of us went there. And then after, Monsignor Santos was in the middle and said, "You will have another prioress from now on. Here is Mother Mary of Christ, and Sister Magdalene to be your mistress." Because we can't say anything. And then she addressed Mother Cecilia, said, "And you, Mother Cecilia, I'm giving you half an hour to pack your things. And no more. No more than that." So she left.
I did not see her go because we were all told to wait there in the choir. And I did not know what happened, and I did not even know. I knew that she was going because it was announced to us, but the way she left, I did not see.
When she left, umiiyak ang mga madre. Ako hindi ako makaiyak. I don't know why. But I was full. I was really full na ano kaya? What's the next? Why? I was full inside thinking, bakit kaya? Did Mother Cecilia do anything wrong or something? Ganon, ano nga? Hindi ako napaiyak talaga. I just prayed. But the others talaga umiiyak. And then when I was in the choir for meditation, that was the time I started to cry.
My first suffering was that when our mother was taken, and we did not know where she would stay. And she just left us. And then, secondly, of course we know Mother Mary of Christ by name, but we do not really know her personally. And of course, that was a big pain for each and every one of us.
But then, I can see that the sisters were a little bit, bang, kabado siguro, ha? Something like that. Umiiyak, malimit, umiiyak, ganun. And then I did not know till later na ito pala si Mother Cecilia was brought to Haro Carmel. They said it was for investigation also.
In the meantime, the sudden reassignment of Mother Marian Cuna, sub-prioress and infirmarian of Lipa, caused her family considerable consternation.
Nawala siya. May panahon na hindi namin nalaman kung saan siya nandoon. Tinatanong namin kung nasaan, hindi raw nila alam, sabi ng Marca Carmelite.
She was told to ask then papal delegate Monsignor Egidio Vannozzi regarding the whereabouts of her sister.
Pumunta naman ako sa kanya, umiiyak ako, sabi ko, Monsignor, sabi ko gano'n. Gusto ko lang malaman kung nasan yung kapatid ko, si Mother Mary Ann. Ngayon sabi niya, sasabihin ko na lang sa'yo kung kailan mo siya pwedeng makita.
Perhaps the second most important witness to the occurrences at Lipa was Bishop Oviar. As auxiliary bishop of Lipa and chaplain of Carmel, he had closely monitored all the developments, had allowed the nuns to commission a statue, approve the release of the apparition story and messages to the public, and had even blessed the groundbreaking and foundation of the new Carmelite chapel. Oviar, too, was relieved of his position. He stayed on in Lipa at the family residence in a sort of limbo, so to speak, and only after a year was assigned to the Diocese of Lucena, demoted to the rank of apostolic administrator.
So we were like that, and until the time that the investigators came over, and so we were investigated one by one.
There are no records of when this investigation at Carmel took place. Teresing remembers being questioned by Monsignor Artemio Casas and Father Ortega. Sister Elizabeth and Mother Mary also remember being questioned, but others claim they were not.
I was never questioned.
No, never. Never. Maybe if it happened these days, it would have been very much easier because you can ask questions now. Even from the priors, you can ask. You can have a dialogue, but that time you cannot. So we remained in doubt all the time, hanging in the air, not knowing what the next step will be. In one meeting of the novices, And we were talking about that and said, yung pala, even Mother Prioress can be picked up like that. How much more us? We were telling like that, so all of us were really scared. Anytime, hindi na kayo, ako nang susunod, sabi ko naman, because I'm the one connected with this case.
Teresita was right. Soon afterwards, the postulant was picked up by Monsignor Santos and, chaperoned by Sister Stephanie, brought to the hospital of the University of Santo Tomas in Manila.
Him, bakit may sakit ba ako? I wanted to ask him, bakit ako dinala dito? May sakit ba ako? Ganun, no? But as usual, mortification of the tongue, you see? Because they say that when you mortify interior feelings like that, that is yung better than any external instrument of penance. That's much better, yung interior. So I kept my mouth shut.
Teresita was subsequently interrogated at UST by psychologist Father Angelo Blas and a noted psychiatrist, Dr. Leopoldo Pardo. Father Blas was the first to question her.
And he started asking me, do you have a tendency, in the family, do you have a tendency or do you have a member of your family who became insane? I said, not that I know of, Father, I said. Or any sickness, say, of the head or the nerves or something like that. I said, well, headaches, oh, yes, Father, I said. But other diseases, I don't know.
The accusation of a lesbian relationship with Mother Cecilia also resurfaced.
3 hours, he was pounding on me for 3 hours. I kept naman, I was quiet, but I was firm with my statements. So he took one piece of paper, and then he gave it to me. Now sign that, he said. So, Father, I will have to read it first. So I read it. And it says there that everything is a hoax, a fraud, and all my imaginations because I just want to be popular, to be loved like that. And so I did not sign. Father, I said, I'm sorry, I cannot sign this. I said, why? Because what you have written here, Father, it's not true eh. Sabi ko, what I'm telling you is true, but what you're telling here is not true. So how do you expect me naman, Father? Please, I said, I cannot really. Then he got mad. He got mad with me. And he stood up. Merong ashtray dyan eh. And he took hold of the ashtray. And sabi ko, katapat ko lang eh. Sabi ko, no, babato yata to sa akin. I was just thinking that way. He was holding and he had no cigarettes naman. So I said, babato yata to sa akin. I was telling to myself like that. So when he stood up, I changed, no? I left my place, and I went a little bit towards the right side, left side. Sure enough, the ashtray flew. And so, I started to shake. My knees were shaking talaga. Ako, siguro, somebody saw me. I was very pale, siguro. I feel that way na. I was pale and my knees started to give way. I said, why don't you like to sign the Father? I said, I cannot really sign. How about, I said, kindly tell Monsignor Santos to kindly come here because I need him. So, facing siya, ganyan, nakaganyan yung kamay. And then he said, he said, do you know that even Carmelites can imagine things? I said, yes, Father. And then, do you know that being a Carmelite contemplative order has has more tendency to imagine than active orders. I did not say anything to him. And so when we were like that, Father, I said, I'm not feeling well because I felt I was going to faint. I said, I'm not feeling well, Father. Nabi ko talaga. So, I told him, and I'm not telling a lie. I told him that. If you want to punish me, you can send me out if you like, but I'm not telling a lie. I told him that. Eh, siguro, he did not believe. So, he left me. I was asking for blessing, did not bless me. And so I told Sister Stephanie, sige na, equal nga mo si Santos because I was really crying na. And Monsignor Santos came the following day and I was crying. And so I told him like that. And he will be back yet, he said. I said, no, ayoko na. Sabi ko, it's not good, it's not naman prudent because he asked me to sign something that's not true. And I really told him, I swear before that, I'm not telling a lie. I said, sabi niya, it has to be. It has to be, ika. Sabi ko naman, oh, sige na lang, oh, sige nga. Okay. So he arrived the next day. And then, oh, did you not change your mind about the signature I'm asking you? I said, no. I said, no, Father. Even if you come back here 20 or 100 times, I will not change my mind.
2 days later, it was Dr. Pardo's turn.
Well, I suppose a psychiatrist should act that way. That's what I mean. He made me feel that as though I'm out of my mind, as though I'm insane. Sige lang, sabi ko, basta give me the grace, no? Yun ang sabi ko, Mama Mary, just give me the grace, like that. And then, so, Dr. Pardo shouted at me, kicked the chair inside the room. And I was sorry nga pa, Sister Stephanie was not there. Pinalabas. Sana nandun siya so she could testify nga, gano'n, ano. And so, sabi niya, doon ba sa pamilya mo, walang loka-loka? He really made me like a fool. Pero, ang allowance ko lang, he's just doing his job. That was the grace that was given to me to understand them. And so I said, if you like, I said, you can go to Batangas, and then you can ask the Patangueños there. I said, if in our family, kahit isa, kung merong insanity in our blood, I said, then if you will find one, I will surrender all my consent and everything. Yun naman, si Dr. Pardo, he wanted me to tell him that I was under strain because of my brother, and then and my family, and that was the one that triggered off all these things. That was what he wanted me to do. Ako naman, I said, hindi naman, doctor. It is not like that. I don't think so. But do you know what will happen to you when you enter Carmel? No. I said, no. If I knew nga sana, I will not enter anymore.
Dr. Pardo and Father Blas are both dead. There are no documents to prove that they had resorted to intimidation or that they had presented Teresing with a false document to sign. And as far as can be deduced, there were no other witnesses to the questioning. In all probability, taking into consideration testimonies of those who knew their character, both these men, in their attempts to arrive at the truth, had no recourse but to resort to playing devil's advocate.
As a matter of fact, he was the brightest Dominican in the Philippines during that time, and a very good psychologist and philosopher. And of course, he was also good in theology. But I don't think that he was an authority to pass judgment on these supernatural matters.
He recalls having once observed Father Blas questioning a blind girl who was reported to have had mystical experiences and disagreed as to the effectivity of the psychologist's manner of questioning.
And my impression was this: in order to pass judgment on the mystical phenomena that are reported about that girl, we had to examine her slowly and carefully and repeatedly, and to gain her confidence, so that she may speak sincerely and openly. Perhaps Father Blas may have been a little rough about this matter or this approach.
Yet despite the manner in which Father Blas may have conducted his investigation, Bishop Pedernal recounts that the psychologist had been impressed with Teresita.
This is what I heard from him, that to his surprise, her intellectual capacity, educational attainment, seems will not be sufficient to be able to answer his questions as a professional psychologist, no? But to his surprise, that he could answer very calmly and correctly.
Bishop Pedernal's statement is supported by a publication that later reported that Father Blas affirmed Teresing's sanity and stability.
If Father Blas did submit a report stating that the novice Teresita Castillo was sane and not given to imagination and hysteria, what then are we to make of her testimony on the appearance of Mary, Mediatrix of All Grace? On what grounds did the investigative committee refute the supernatural character of the events of Lipa? In the course of the interrogations at UST, the so-called supernatural manifestations surrounding Teresing reoccurred. Sister Stephanie, who had previously witnessed other phenomena, was not surprised.
Nung isang hapon, during meditation, nasa UST kami, nakita ko uneasy. Nakahiga pero bumangon, lumakad ganyan, paganyan-ganyan sa paikit-ikit sa kama. Nandoon siya, nandito ako, nandito altar namin, yung iron chair, nandiyan, biglang, para ba yung hinawakan mo't hinyampas mo sa floor? Nagulat ako kung ano makita ko, yun. Ko, sister, bakit? Di makita ko siya, maputlang, takbo agad ako. Hindi pagkaganoon hinawakan ko, hiniga ako sa kama. Sir, bakit? Whenever I meditate on our blessed Virgin, he appears that big black man. Sabi ko, siguro na nabunggo yung chair.
She saw further evidence of what Teresing claimed was diabolical harassment.
Yung isang umaga, nagsimba. Pagdating namin sa room, nag-alis siya ng habit, yun lang parang gown niya at saka yung petticoat. Ayun yan. Sabi, sister, punta lang ko sa toilet. Sabi ko, hindi, sa karkula ko, hindi pa nakakarating sa loob ng toilet. Lumabas agad, tumindig sa pinto. Sabi, sister, sabi makita, tinuro sa akin yung tali ng petticoat niya. Naglilingas, yung dalawang lulon. Ako, hindi niya ko agad. Tapos, inipon ko yung abo. Dapat ikot-ikot daw yung devil, yung big black man na yun, nahawakan yung nakalawit na string ng petticoat.
It was also at UST that Teresing saw Mother Cecilia once more. Monsignor Santos, who visited Teresing in between her harrowing interrogations, comforted and even fed her when she was too tense to eat, asked if she would like to see the prioress again.
I said, hindi na ho. Ang layo naman ng haro. Para siguro to console me, kasi nga iyak ako ng iyak. To console me naman siguro, he offered. Sabi hindi na ho, nalayo naman ng haro. Sabi ko gano'n. Sabi niya, hindi, malapit lang. Is she sick? I said, hindi, she's just near you. Oh, yes, of course. I said, I want to see her. So he brought me to the next room. Yung pala, Mother Cecilia was already there for 10 days din. See, just next my room. I went inside. And I saw her sitting on the bed, facing the wall. And so Bishop Santos said, "Oh, Mother, andito si Sister Teresita." Tinanong ko sa kanya if he wants to see you. Oo. So, ito siya. Ganyan. I kissed her. Walang response. So, Mother, I said, I am here. Maybe she got a shock or what, I do that. Mother, I said, nandito na ako. Sabi kong ganun. Kaya nang mag-usap tayong dalawa, I was telling her that way. Walang response. So, Cardinal Santos left us. Sabi niya, baka si Mother kaya ganun because he is present. So, he left us and he told us, I'll give you half an hour, 30 minutes to chat. So, I sat beside her and then I embraced her. No response. So, Mother, I said, naku naman, this good na nga. I'm very happy that I saw you. You are pala here in UST. Wala ring response. Then finally, I said, alis na lang ako. I'll go na lang. I said, because you might be tense because I'm here. Anyway, I cannot talk to you. You don't like to talk to me. So I will go na lang. I told Mother Cecilia that. Now, if during our time when I was there, during your being prioress, Mother, I said, if I had given you headaches or if I had done something wrong, ngayon, I'm asking you pardon and forgiveness, I said. So, I will go na. And when I said that, then she started to cry. And she embraced me tightly and she started to cry. I said, sige, iyak na kayo. It's better if you cry. I said, it's always better. Okay? And then, she told me, you know, you tell the sisters that to pray very, very much for me because hirap na ako. Sabi niya, you know, I am not even allowed to join the community acts, the office, anything. She was always down in the infirmary. But I said, Mother, why did you not ask them if you can join? No, I'm not allowed. I'm not allowed, Teresita. Sabi niya, that is why you have to pray very much for me and tell the sisters to pray very, very much for me. So, yes, Mother, I said. No, I only want to tell you one thing, she said. If you still consider me as your Mother Prioress, I forbid you to use any instrument of penance that you used to ask from me. Because you have to preserve your health because of Mama Mary's case. That is not only our cause, but it is purely on Mama Mary's cause. Dumating na si Monsignor Santos. And she saw both of us were crying. Oh, sige, Mother, I will take Sister Teresita to her room. So, I kissed her, no? And then I knelt, and the mga prioress, it's at night time, ganyan ako. And then, all right, Mother, we will be very, very united with our prayers, sacrifices, and everything, I said.
The next day, Teresing was scheduled to return to Lipa and asked Monsignor Santos if she could say goodbye to Mother Cecilia, but she was told that the prioress was no longer there. She had already been taken to the airport.
Sister Bernadette Bautista, one-time official chronicler of the Lipa community, shed some light on what may have transpired in UST. The former infirmarian Mother Marian Cuna had been banished to Lawag and suffered the same fate as Mother Cecilia.
Mother Marian told me that she was brought to UST and there she met Mother Mary Cecilia. And they were questioned by Father Blas about the event of Lipa. And according to her, they were accused by a former sister in Lipa. I think a novice, but she didn't mention me the name.
Mother Cecilia would continue to suffer from the ignominy of her banishment from Lipa.
I could sense and I could feel within myself that she is suffering interiorly.
Sister Bernadette Castillo's testimony and that of the other members of the Carmelite convent in Haro, Iloilo, substantiates Teresing's account of Mother Cecilia's anguish.
When she came here to Haro Carmel, she was still not so thin, but after some time, she became really very thin and almost emaciated because she eats very little, and she was not coming along with us during community acts. After our meals, she goes out, and then afterwards, she just retires to her room in the infirmary.
Beside being barred from the recitation of the divine office and participation in community acts, there were reports that the prioress was reduced to the status of that of a scullery maid at Haro Carmel.
I knew her before I entered Carmel. She was a person so alive, full of life, and always joyful. But when she came here, there was no more life in her.
And yet, despite these rather severe deprivations and her apparent distress, the Carmelite nuns would remember that Mother Cecilia never showed any signs of bitterness or anger. Our interviews with the Carmelite community of Haro revealed that they too were witness to strange and unexpected events. Sister Mary Tayamora, the first Filipina to enter Carmel and now 82 years old, keenly remembers that period in their community life. Too shy to appear on camera, she nevertheless testified that on many an early morning she would see Mother Cecilia in the kitchen burning little pieces of paper, and one afternoon she and some other nuns were present when a shower of petals fell within the confines of the infirmary. The sisters had excitedly gathered up the petals, but the former prioress maintained her composure, and when pressed for a reaction, quietly said, "I feel so happy because our Blessed Mother is still following me." Apart from what looked like a deliberate dispersal of the main witnesses and advocates of Lipa, and the intimidation and coercion reportedly used by the interrogators on the visionary and the other nuns, there are indications that the official church investigation was a rather hurried, slipshod affair, generally wanting in thoroughness.
Bishop Versosa, for instance, was never questioned, and, more importantly, neither was Bishop Oviar, who would, till his dying day, wait for official church representatives to come for his testimony. Francisco Di Chanco, head of the Lipa Marian Research Center, which at one time spearheaded a campaign that tried to have the case reopened, cites yet another serious oversight on the part of the Commission.
For example, from Mrs. Mendoza of Paco, and also from Sister Melania Sunga of Candon, Ilocos Sur. And I asked them if they were investigated, those miracles were investigated, and they said never. So I presume that those who investigated Lipa only asked questions from the sisters and never investigated any of the miracles.
On April 6, 1951, only 2.5 years after the reported apparitions, the Philippine hierarchy pronounced its verdict. There was no supernatural intervention in the events that occurred at Carmel of Lipa. The decision was signed by 6 bishops: Gabriel M. Reyes, then Archbishop of Manila; Cesar M. Guerrero, Bishop of San Fernando; Mariano Madriaga, Bishop of Lingayen; Juan C. Sison, Auxiliary Bishop of Nueva Segovia; Vicente P. Reyes, Auxiliary Bishop of Manila; and surprisingly, Rufino Santos, Apostolic Administrator of Lipa. All of these bishops have since passed away, but there are testimonies to the effect that they may have been ill-prepared to sign such a document.
You ever get to talk to any of them, or were they?
Yes. Only one, because at that time, 1982, only one was living, and that was Bishop Reyes of Cabanatuan. Vicente Reyes. And I asked him, how did you arrive to that decision? He told me, I was a young bishop then. I was called to the Arzobispado in Intramuros at 9 o'clock in the morning. We had that conference there. At around 3 o'clock, we signed the documents that it was not true. I asked him, did you investigate yourself, Your Excellency? No, he said. There was a body, a commission, who investigated.
Teresing states that she was never called to face or be interrogated by the bishops. Neither was she ever interrogated by the Carmelite fathers sent from Rome. Dichanco discloses that there are also some indications of coercion.
At least one bishop there was confessed that he was forced to sign.
Mother Mary Margaret of the Sacred Heart, prioress of Angeles Carmel, reveals that Bishop Guerrero often expressed his disappointment over the turn of events.
He did not make much statement about it because it was forbidden by the church. But then we knew from his talks from that, but privately, that he was he approved that happening in Lipa. He find it supernatural.
Bishop Cesar Guerrero used to come here every year on the 21st of November. He used to come here to pay his respect to our Blessed Mother. And he says Mass. After saying Mass, he used to see the community. I was then a very young novice. And I remember in one of his visits, he said that, I am really waiting for the approval of Our Lady. I really believe. But I was forced to sign the document against Our Lady. He was crying when he told us that. Not really crying, but I saw tears in his eyes.
Jesuit priest Father Lorenzo Maria Guerrero, who headed the Apostleship of Prayer for 29 years, and then went on to head the Marian movement of priests in the Philippines, disclosed that his uncle, Bishop Cesar Guerrero, revealed as he lay dying that he had been forced into signing the final verdict on Lipa. Moreover, Bishop Guerrero stated that he believed in the veracity of the apparitions. Father Guerrero has since suffered a debilitating stroke, but in his desire to set the record straight, has signed his official testimony to this effect. Father Guerrero, is this your signature?
Yes, yes,
Do you attest to the authenticity and veracity of this account?
yes, very much.
To the best of your knowledge, was this your uncle's deathbed confession?
Yes,
And Bishop Guerrero was already in Hospicio de San Jose because he was living there, no? And once in a while, Bishop Obiar, we go there to visit him. And he always talk about the petal. The same thing with the late Archbishop. All the other one who signed is Archbishop's one season of Bigan. The same thing with season. All these bishops have signed. They never did away with the petal that they got. The sisters gave them.
Mother Therese recounts that Bishop Guerrero made a rather enigmatic revelation.
I was transferred in 1956 to Angeles Carmel as subprioress. Now, every now and then, he became the Bishop of San Fernando. He used to visit us. And one day when he was talking to us, we were talking about Lipa, and he said, I always go there every November 21. Someday the truth will come.
He said that. Did he ever indicate that he believed that it would be,
Not exactly, but as he was explaining what happened, I don't know if I should tell it. But
sige na.
Sabi niya, it's the 4th of that month. But he did not mention it. I don't know, he did not tell the name.
A reliable source testifies that Bishop Patrick Shanley of Isabella was reportedly so disgusted by the conduct of the investigation and the manner in which certain church officials influenced the outcome of the verdict. In a fit of anger, he denounced the proceedings and revealed that the bishops had been forced to sign the verdict by the papal nuncio upon the pain of excommunication.
What kind of a man was Monsignor Vanniosi?
Well, he was a handsome man and strong-willed.
He was a very intelligent person. He was very well prepared. He was a workaholic. He took very little time off for vacation and relaxation. He also was rather intolerant sometimes of mistakes. He always wanted results, and in the process sometimes became a little rough.
He became one of the most influential cardinals we ever had. He's very impulsive, That's why he had many friends here in the Philippines, but he also had so many enemies, I would say.
Bishop Pedernal adds that Vanniosi did not believe the reported apparitions at Lipa to be authentic.
And he said that it was a kind of in Spanish they say parang invento, no? Invention of the sisters.
If he had indeed threatened the Philippine hierarchy with excommunication, as some testimonies indicate, did Vanniosi overstep the bounds of his authority? For a papal legate functions as an ambassador. His duties are normally that of liaison between the Vatican and the Philippine government and hierarchy.
The nuncio has no. When it comes to jurisdiction, the nuncio has no jurisdiction whatsoever to any bishop. It is set, as you know, I hope you know, that the setup of the Catholic Church that every bishop in his diocese is only responsible directly to the Pope. Not to the nuncio. A bishop of, for example, of San Pablo has is not responsible to Cardinal Sin, even he is the Archbishop, but it's only to the Holy Father, direct to the Holy Father.
I think he shouldn't have interfered with the matter of the petals. That should have been done by the Philippine hierarchy, by the bishops.
Is it possible that they would have signed because they were afraid?
It is possible, yes. It is possible that a white man in those times had a superiority, either real or supposed, over the Filipinos, because you were still so close to the times of colonialism.
Bishop Pedernal, however, indicates that the considerable influence of Monsignor Rufino Santos cannot be discounted.
Bishop Oviar.
Yeah.
A good friend of Bishop Guerrero.
Yes.
And he said, why did you sign that? I know that you believe it. You always have your petal there in your... I said, in this late Guerrero said, you have to sign because, the cardinal said we all have to sign this.
But I want to make known one thing.
Yes.
It was not Bagnosi who decided the whole thing. The definitor generalis of the Carmelite order was the one who investigated the whole thing. He stayed in Manila for I don't know, as much as a month or 2 months. And this was in Lipa Monastery every day. And he used to go to the nunciature and made his progressive report. And on the progressive report, the thing they were making is progressive report to Rome. See, it was Father Michael, I think his name was Father Michael, who did all the investigation. So it was Father Michael whose decision was the overruling the main factor that made him miss the decision. It was not Bagnos.
We discovered that there were documents on Lipa still in existence in the archives of the Carmelite Generalate in Rome. Armed with a letter from Archbishop Gaviola, we went to Rome with the hopes that these documents would be able to shed some light on the manner of the investigation and the reason for the verdict. Strangely enough, there was very little on file on the case of Lipa. There weren't any records of who had been sent, why, and for how long. More importantly, there wasn't even an official report from Father Michael Moylan on the nature of his investigation or the reason for the negative decision on Lipa.
It was too I would say, not to say premature, but too soon, you know.
Apparently, many members of the church hierarchy believed in the apparitions of Mary at Lipa, but had unfortunately kept their silence. Bishop Pedernal relates the very interesting account of Monsignor Morelli, chargé d'affaires of the Holy See, prior to Monsignor Vagnosi. Pedernal had accompanied Bishop Oviar on his visit to Rome and had been present at the meeting between Morelli and Oviar.
Morelli started about this case of Lipa, and he said, Bishop Oviar, why did the bishops in the Philippines, why did they not insist in asking the Holy Father to approve that the Virgin Mother, Blessed Mother, have gone to the Philippines, to Lipa? Because I myself personally, before I left the Philippines, twice I experienced in Lipa what had happened in Fatima about the sunlight while I am there in Carmel. And Bishop Oviar, you know, ordinarily I said, lumabas ang kanyang pagkabatang. He said, speaking, they were talking in Spanish, he said, tonteria. I said, how is this possible? You were one of those who signed that this thing about the petals and about that is foolishness. And the poor always say, Monsignor, you know, that time I'm not a bishop. But he was insisting that I'm only a retired Monsignor. In fact, Bishop Oviar still says, you are here at the point of the nose of the Holy Father, so you tell the Holy Father, you approve that the Blessed Mother went to the Philippines, there in Lipa. He said, what can I cannot do that. I'm nothing here. I'm only praying as an old retired Monsignor, canonigo. But I say, you bishops in the Philippines, you have more influence and power to tell the Holy Father, please declare that the Blessed Mother. And so the bishop, afterwards, he was explaining, saying, you said that when you were there, you said you signed that document, that there was nothing. Now you're telling me now that you believe that the Blessed Mother went there, no? And so I was joking, Bishop Oviar, I say, tama na ho, huwag na ninyong kagalitan, baka tayo hindi pakanin. Huh? So during the lunch, and before we left, again, Monsignor Morelli, he pulled out from his pocket, Monsignor, this petal, which I got from Lipa during the shower.